Welcome. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I'm happy to tell you that I have an incredible resource for us today. Um, with us will be a friend of mine, very, very, very funny because she and I have connected on such a level that is pretty incredible in a pretty short period of time. But we share so much in common, and that being the love of healing, the love of sharing the healing process for people. And so we have that so much in common. And it's amazing what happens when we meet somebody that's so much like us and that our mission is so much alike, and what happens there. So really for me, what's happening is magic. I'm finding that she's an amazing resource, not only for me, but I think for all of us. So that is why I am so happy to share her with you today. Her name is Kellie Lupsha. And Kellie is above all the mother of four and an incredible entrepreneur. But an entrepreneur in the sense that for her, it's about helping. For her, it's about aiding in any way she can those who need to heal. And so I find that kind of entrepreneurship to be altruistic and to be a phenomenal aid for all of us. She is a graduate of the University of Arizona with a bachelor's degree, and she got her master's at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, in physical therapy. She has specialized in recovery of stroke and neurological disorders, traumatic brain injuries, concussions over the past 25 years. She and her husband were fortunate enough to have them with us locally. They have their own practice in Laguna Niguel, California, that specializes in the treatment of the neurological, physical physiotherapy. But we have an added component, and this is where I think it's so exciting. They are adding something that's called biohacking to their practice. Over the past 6 years, they have been very involved in this biohacking and are integrating it as optimal wellness, as an optimal wellness component into their practice, specifically at a cellular level. Let me try that again. Cellular level. Hard to say, but so important. And we know that healing comes at a cellular level. Unless it's happening at that level, it won't happen appropriately. So she now has a huge passion for biohacking because she has seen, I imagine, the results. When you see her, you'll know what I mean. And she is teaching people to become the CEOs of their own health and their own life. And people meaning us. That's why I am so excited to share her with you. And I'm so excited to listen to what this biohacking is. As we all know, I had my own neurological issues with the MS, and I'm doing well. And I think a lot of what she'll be talking about is stuff that I follow already. So I'll let her explain to you what biohacking is, what neurophysiotherapy is, and how the two combined can make such a difference in our lives. And let me bring her in with me. And here we go. Hello, Kellie.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
It's so nice to have you with us. I know I gave a brief introduction of who you are, but I didn't even touch the surface. So if you could tell us who you are, that would be terrific. Let us
Oh my gosh.
know who Kellie is and why Kellie does what Kellie does.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. And you guys, I'm really honored that Margie invited me to be on and to share with you guys some of my passion in the healing arts and in wellness. So like she shared, I've been a physical therapist for the past 25 years. And as a kid, or I think even you guys, if you hear the word physical therapist, most people think sports medicine, that maybe it's really like a glorious field. And initially that's maybe what I thought. But once I got into my career, I realized what I had my hands on was way more special, and helping people through trying times of their life, through difficult journey that, you know, they were not expecting in their life. Specifically, people who end up from a traumatic accident or injury with a brain injury, or have a stroke unexpectedly, or, you know, maybe they just hit their head on a counter, or a kid in sports that ended up with a concussion that out of the blue, their life is suddenly changed, versus maybe an athlete that ends up with a knee issue, or one of us maybe over time ends up with a back issue. These have been life-altering things that kind of like changes your life on a dime. And it's like, whoa, now what? And so really have the privilege of helping. And I've absolutely loved it. And I've been in various aspects throughout my career. But like Margie shared with you, currently my husband and I have our own private practice. It's so great that we can serve the needs of people exactly like we want to. And lately, it's now that we have more knowledge about health and wellness and technology today than ever before, we're able to actually give and provide more than ever before to our clients. Yes.
That's terrific. You know, I think anyone that has suffered any type of neurological or, like you say, trauma to the head knows exactly what you're talking about. And I think most of the people that come to my website have, in one way or another, had some sort of trauma or neurological, I don't like calling it disease, upset along the way. Right. And so the importance of what you do for us can't be overstated. And I think sometimes if you have MS, for example, or if you have a neurological disease, you don't think about physiotherapy, but it's absolutely necessary for us. Can you touch on that a little bit and talk about how that works?
Absolutely. You know, the body is really our miracle, and there isn't ever going to be the one thing, I think, that's going to heal any of us. But we need many things in combination, and the exact right recipe for each one of us is different. And that's kind of what's exciting about all of it, is it's a little bit different. But our component of it is so important, because the brain today that we've known, actually, if I can go all the way back to the 90s, they talk about the decade of the 90s as the decade of the brain. And they really learn that the brain has tremendous capability of not only neuroplasticity, meaning new learning, it has new regeneration and new growth, new neuronal growth that can happen through the brain, because most of us don't use a lot of it, which is, we think like, how can we not? But we really don't. So either you can actually have new growth through damaged areas, you can have collateral growth around the area, and you can have just new neural networks, meaning new areas of your brain talk to each other that weren't talking to each other before. But without the right movement and intervention, it won't just happen. And I think that's where physical therapy really comes in, is we are the trainer, the teacher, to help you with moving the body in a way to get your brain to make those new connections again. So sometimes it is just exercise, but many times it's very strategic of different, you know, movement patterns or repetition so many times, so that the brain says, where's that highway I'm supposed to be traveling again? Oh yeah, let's move on that highway again. It's like a new road. Your brain doesn't really know it's there.
Right, I call it a pathway, right? A new pathway, yeah.
Exactly. And so it's really fun to see. It is, and I'm sure for many of you that have experienced this, extremely hard work and can be frustrating. And at times it's amazing, it's exciting when you're doing better, but at other times it's like, oh, the road seems long. But what I will say is it's that determination and grit that will make it really stick for you. And Margie, I mean, you can probably speak to this yourself, is many times if we have an injury, an accident, you have to have surgery, people are in the hospital, they have a period of recovery, and then 3 to 6 months down the line, you're kind of back to life. But when you have a neurological injury, when the brain has been damaged, whether it's a shearing force from a concussion, whether it's a lesion, whether it's a stroke, that brain just doesn't heal and recover in 3 to 6 months like other parts of our body.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to teach everybody, if you have something going on, you cannot take it lightly. You need to seriously take care of your neurological system. But on the flip side of that, sometimes those of us that don't have anything going on at the moment aren't treating our brain with how we need to, the preciousness, because there isn't an issue.
Right.
And so that's like a bigger aha for people of, no, can you fuel it, nurture it, do, you know, whether it's through nutrition, through mindfulness, through whatever it is, get your brain at like working top notch, right? Like you tune up a car, you need to tune up your brain before something happens.
Right. It's like you don't know you have a brain till there's a problem, right? And you want to make sure that it's fine tuned so there is no problem.
That's right. Absolutely right. So it's exciting, you know, to teach on two fronts, to help people through this journey after they've had something, because it's really life altering. And sometimes our current medical system, it's really hard to sift and sort through where should I go? Who should I see? What should I believe? How much of it should I do? How far should I travel? How much money should I spend? I mean, it can be a daunting process.
Or, yeah, it absolutely is. I think for most of us that have had any issues, medical issues in general, right? But these specifically, because there's so many different ways we could approach it, what is the right thing for us? I want you to touch upon, and I'm dying to find out, the preventative aspect, because I think prevention is the key. I think prevention is the key for all of us, whether you're already in a pickle, whether you've already had a problem, and so you can prevent furthering of that problem or other problems, or whether you're healthy, but let's be honest, we want to remain healthy, right? So what is this? And I'm assuming this is what my biohacking curiosity is. I want to learn about biohacking. What is biohacking, and how does biohacking help us?
Oh gosh, I love it. I love it. And many of you might say like, oh, I think I've heard this word before, biohacking. Some of you might be like scared of it. It's actually very simple, but it's really being talked a lot today. And so biohacking, right? People now talk about hacks. You know, I have a hack for sleep, a hack for this, but biohacking means really hacking into our own biology, being able to take control of your own biology through doing little things. And some of you guys may already be doing them and you don't even know, like, oh, maybe you're already a biohacker and you didn't even know it. But ultimately you're trying to optimize yourself. So it could be through food and nutrition, could be through meditation, it could be through sleep. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but just what you said earlier, Margie, when you don't like to talk about like disease, is even if we're healthy and well, or wherever our level of health is at the moment, right? Wherever those of you listening is, imagine what you do to your body is either going to tip it one way or another way, right? For good or bad. It's something's good for you or not good for you. You can't say like, I can go drink a diet soda and it might not be good for me. No, right? Either is or isn't.
Black or white, yes.
It's very black or white. And so you have to think, how can you stack up the odds for success on one side of this teeter-totter so that you're really living in optimal health and wellness? If you're kind of like a little bit on this side and then a little bit on this side, a little bit on this side, a little bit on this side, right? Then you're kind of always dancing this fine line of what we say dis-ease.
Right.
The body's not in balance. It's not liking something. And many of us teeter like this for a long time. And it takes one extra thing, and it could be a stressor in our life. It could be something in our environment. Maybe you are living in toxic mold and you don't know it. Maybe you have a terrible, relationship in your life that's really destroying things. Or maybe you're just too busy, right? It could be anything that this very delicate balance gets out of balance. And then now we have something, right? Now the doctor potentially can label us with whatever that may be. And so that's where I want people to understand, in biohacking, you are 100% in control of how you balance your body's health. And you have to think, in a given day, am I stacking my odds up for success of living that healthy, optimal life, or am I not? Right. And so some of the things, Margie, with biohacking, you guys, to take it simple, and we'll start really easy, is sleep has been a big issue lately that people are talking about.
Yeah.
And it's not like you just need to go get your 7-8 hours of sleep and you're done, but it's that quality of sleep. Right. So there's different mattresses, there's different devices you can have on your watch. There's an Oura ring that measures how much deep sleep you're in, or REM sleep that you're in. But how you're setting yourself up for success, meaning, are you putting screen times down? Getting rid of blue lights in the evening, right? Are you trying to wind down? If you're, working really late towards night and then expect your body to just go to sleep, or you're eating too late at night, or you're going to bed at different times every single day. That's actually not very good for you. So it's not the hours of sleep, it's this regular rhythm, getting your body to get in both deep sleep and REM sleep, because that's our restorative sleep. That's where we heal, we repair, we regenerate. Your short-term memories turn into long-term memories. Like, you need to get into that restful sleep. So sometimes you'll say like, God, I just feel so tired. I did sleep 7 or 8 hours, but I still feel so tired. You probably didn't get a lot of restorative sleep. So very important. And for some people, sleep can be more sensitive than others. Like, you need a cooler room or darker room. Just a variety of things like that. But honestly, it can be a small little hack you can do, a little change to optimize how your body's going to function the next day.
Sure.
Seems simple.
Well, and sleep is so primary for us to function at all. How do you feel about magnesium in order to help in the sleep?
I love magnesium. You know, most of us probably, if you do blood work, are
Deficient.
It just really is. And so you can't really go wrong adding that to your regimen. Absolutely. It's some of those, I say basics, right? Whether you're looking at, for women, you know, some calcium and vitamin D. Mm-hmm. Some of these basics are really things in our lifetime today we're just not getting anymore. We're not, even though we're out maybe in the sunshine, we're using clothing for protection or hats or, you know, sunglasses to block, or, you know, lots of sunscreen. And ultimately, that's Mother Nature's good vitamin D for us.
Yes.
So we should be out in the sun, exposing some skin, making sure your eyes actually get direct sunlight. And I'm not talking you need 3-4 hours a day, but we all need probably 15 to 30 minutes of it on the skin, absorbing it in.
And the eyes is very important, because you see that rhythm first thing in the morning, being in the sun, bright sun, 20 minutes, half an hour, starting your day that way is very important.
It's very important. I mean, after I do my little morning routine and meditation, we have a ton of windows and I open up all the blinds, start getting the sunshine in, you know, getting their dogs out for a little walk. And I don't wear my sunglasses on my morning walk specifically.
I do the same thing. Yes.
But I didn't know that before. You know, most of us would think that's silly. Of course you'd wear sunglasses, or that's silly. Of course you should be covering yourself and protecting yourself from the skin, from the sun. But again, how we live our lives today is very different than 50, 100, 500 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So little biohacks like that go a long way in what your body's doing. And, you know, the next one I'll kind of move into a little bit, Margie, is exercise, not only as a physical therapist, why I think that's important, but to be honest, exercise has always kind of been my jam. As a young kid, I was involved in a lot of sports, and I've always continued to be active in running and activities. And I love outside paddleboarding and skiing and snowboarding and you name it. Mm-hmm. But what I used to do is kind of like exercise like crazy. And I think many of us did through the 80s. We all did all of our aerobics, and then it became, yeah. You know, and then even like as a runner, it was like running tons of miles. We got into, my husband and I, into triathlons for a while, and it was, I mean, that's hours of endurance as athletes. And then I realized that actually that's not that beneficial to our health. Kind of upsets the apple cart in the opposite direction, creating too much oxidative stress, and sometimes can burn out your adrenals. And like, why am I having fatigue, and why am I feeling this way? Well, so you can always take something that's good and do too much of it, and now it's bad, right? Like it's everything's in moderation per se. Yes. But I think really finding an activity of exercise that you enjoy, that's so important. So it's not a chore, that you're going to integrate it into your life. You're going to want to do it every day. And whether it's just yoga for you, whether it's some people walking, whether it's some people it's hiking, some people love cycling. But again, it's not like 2 hours of cycling or 2 hours of running. It's, can you maybe have some endurance, maybe 3 days a week, and then you're doing some weight training and you're doing some strengthening. Or a lot of people are talking about this, you know, HIIT training today, this high intensity interval training. Right. Our body needs to be stressed. It's providing a stressor so that the body does something. And that's what keeps our system strong and healthy, versus just thinking, you know, I gotta go run 10 miles today. Don't, like, that's the wrong thing to think about when in terms of exercise. But it's been an evolution for me.
Yeah, and it seems to me that unless you can incorporate it and enjoy it, because I think it's essential when we're doing something to enjoy it. Otherwise, the signal that you're sending to the body is stressful as
Negative,
opposed to
stressful.
complementary. So if you can do something that you could, for example, in my case, I do yoga, but I also walk. So I do the stretching, but I also do some of the resilience building, right?
Yeah.
So that my body becomes more resilient. But if you were to ask me to run, I'm not a runner. I'm a walker, you know? So I may run for a week and then there's no way. So it's just a matter of complementing your own life, I think, don't you? Yeah.
And, you know, as kids, I think it's easy for us to try a lot of new things. And as adults, we get, I don't know if it's fearful is really the right word, but we just stop experimenting with new things.
Well, it's just we run out of time. We only
Yeah.
have so much time. So it's some of it is I'd love to do, to do other things, but I don't have the time for it.
Yes. And I think carving out a little pocket of your day or your week is important. And maybe it's like, you know what? I have no idea, but maybe I'm going to try tennis. Maybe I'm going to try golf. Maybe I'm going to try power walking. Maybe I'm going to try, I don't know, but don't be afraid to try. Because I think a lot of people, their friend maybe might convince them to come along. But if their friend didn't convince them to come along, they would have never have found out that they absolutely love this new thing, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Yes. And the benefits of, for example, paddleboarding. When you paddleboard, I noticed something. I like to paddleboard. I get off the board and I can read a menu. It adjusts my vision. A few hours later, I can't read that same menu, but the moment I come off the board, I can read the menu. So there are things that happen in our body with certain types of exercises that we don't get with others.
Yes.
So I think a variety is a good thing too.
It is. It absolutely is. And, so I would encourage you, kind of what goes along with that is community. And that's the one other thing with biohacking I'll say is right now is a difficult time in the world because many people are not in community right now with everything shutting down and trying to stay away from people and use our social distancing. But again, it can be like this, with people using Zoom, using different webinar platforms, things like that. And if you have a community, then you're more apt to go to your class. You're more apt to show up. You have that accountability. But what I have really learned as a mom of 4 kids, over the course, you start out as a young adult with your own friends, and then all of a sudden you become friends and spend a lot of time with your children and their parents and people. And ultimately, as the kids are growing up, I'm like, I need to find my tribe. Who really are those people that lift me up in the world that I can't wait to go see and spend time with, that add value to me? That positivity and connection is huge. They talk a lot about that, even though Alzheimer's usually doesn't get, quote, diagnosed for people, maybe closer towards 80. It's really starting inside ourselves as young as 40s. And having that community and connection is one of those things that is critical to help your mind have success and health and wellness in your body today to prevent dis-ease. But also, you don't really think about something like community or exercise classes would help you prevent dementia in the future.
Yeah.
It's actually critical to feel a part of something, that we're bigger. It's bigger. The world is bigger than just us, right?
Yes. Yeah. The being isolated is very difficult on the brain. Because, well, for many reasons, we won't go into, but it's very difficult. So you're absolutely right. It's so important to stay connected. And like you say, at this time, we can connect this way. And have dinner together, right?
Yeah.
Have a glass of wine together, whatever it may be.
You know what? It's always like figure out how to make the best of something or find new joy in a different way that you just never would experience before. And for some of you that are going through a hard time right now, that maybe you're suffering from a neurological disorder, sometimes you feel like you're not connected anymore. Like whatever you were a part of, you're no longer, you're either uncomfortable or you don't understand, quite know, should I join back in again, or how do I do this, or how do I find a new community that I need support with? So don't be afraid to just search out. You can search for groups, look for resources that you can participate in. But what I will say to people that's important is, there's, now that we have access to everything online possible, be careful the groups that you're joining, that to make sure they're positive and uplifting. Because what I have found,
Absolutely.
sometimes you can join different groups or be a part of something to be a part of it, but really people aren't very positive and uplifting in those groups. So be an advocate, be an active consumer, I guess, and where you want to spend your time.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because the group is there doesn't mean that that's the group you need to join. And I couldn't agree more. Being uplifted is so important. I could not. I think I did as well as I did because I did surround myself with uplifting people, uplifting doctors, uplifting everything. That's what my focus was to be lifted.
Yes.
And so I could not agree with you more. Yes.
And, you know, with that kind of goes along relationships, meaning you may change your relationship after something has happened to you. Maybe you were the, you know, financial planner, or you were the one that took care of cooking, but now you can't at the moment. So your roles are changing, relationships change, maybe how you interact with your children change. So it's okay to be aware of it and talk through it of how is this change? And eventually it might be the new norm, or eventually when you go through your healing journey, it might revert back in time. But take back those roles, but constantly be working on those relationships. And it could be a relationship with your friends, it could be with your spouse, it could be with your children, it could be with your doctors. Like, you need to have positive relationships, because not everyone is the right one for each and every one of us.
Absolutely. You have to, yes. And, you know, going back to the relationships and sometimes lacking in being in our ability, we tend to not like to ask for help, but we need to ask for help. And I think it gives those that are around us joy to help us when needed. That's not to say you will be going back to the old self, but in the meantime, you may need that help. And I think it's a beautiful process for everybody when you do that.
Mm-hmm. It is. You know, I'm going to get into a few other biohacking tips here that I think people will find, you know, just fascinating. You know, food, I think food and nutrition has been something, even as kids, word like, you know, you used to talk about your 5 food groups or the food pyramid, or eat your fruits and vegetables. And over the course of years now, people are like, oh no, you should eat, you know, don't eat fat or low fat, right? Then all of a sudden it's low carb. Then all of a sudden it's this, it's that. There is a lot out there that things are evolving, and the right nutrition isn't the same for each and every one of us. At a cellular level, what each of us need is all a little different. But what I will say is, my experience in general, no matter how you decide to eat, is that be careful of how much processed and sugar, anything that's going to lead to more inflammation in the body. If we're talking about healing, if we're talking about biohacking, optimizing your biology, you really have to think, is the body intended to have this? Okay. And granted, do we all splurge a little bit now and then on little something? Maybe yes. But in general, what you look at, the majority of what you're consuming might be affecting how you're feeling, how your brain is performing. If you're filling it full of sugars all day long. And when I say sugars, I don't mean that you're eating like candy. You know, sugars as in white flour. All of that turns into sugar. And I think that's a new paradigm for all of us, is thinking about that. The second thing I'd say, be very, very careful with going out with all of the fried foods, because it's all trans fats. And you guys, believe it or not, that leads to neuroinflammation that is very hard to clear out.
All the oils from seeds, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And what you're cooking with, well, I mean, I don't have any of those old oils in my house anymore, because I don't even want the kids to accidentally grab them, whatever that may be. But we've commercialized things. You know, today's not the day to talk about the farming and the food industry. That's a whole nother realm out there. But we do need to be active consumers and eat a, you know, a diet that's colorful, lots of vegetables. And I won't even say fruit and vegetables because there's a lot of fruits that are high in sugar. So I'm kind of your berry girl. Maybe have seasonal fresh fruits, but be careful because fruits can carry lots of added sugar that people don't realize are getting into their bodies. But you're biohacking. So if you're already conscious of the foods you're eating, you're probably biohacking. If you're already conscious of maybe your sleep, you didn't even know it, but you're biohacking. But the next really level of nutrition I wanted to mention is the field of supplementation has been around for years and years. And you could go to GNC, you could go to Costco, you can go to Trader Joe's, you can go anywhere and find your vitamins or your supplements. And over years, they've kind of had good raps and bad raps, and people have talked about them. But we should always be thinking of, is there something new? Is there something that's the best, the latest and greatest, right, for my body? Because if we're still talking about the same thing we did 100 years ago to today, it's like, maybe there's something better. I hope things are evolving. Where, well, this whole line of supplement has been evolving, Margie, has been fascinating to me is, I'm sure some of your listeners out there have taken some tests, genetic testing, maybe Ancestry.com or 23andMe, things like that. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is people necessarily don't know then what to do with that information other than, oh, I have the gene that might predispose me for this, XYZ, whatever. But they're realizing that it's actually your epigenetics, it's the environment and your lifestyle that's actually going to trigger what your genes are going to do. Right. Okay. So if you have a gene that might cause you, say, I don't know, cancer in your life, we want to keep that gene suppressed. You don't want to activate that gene. So there are now, instead of just taking supplements, there's actually a whole brand new line called Activators. Usually they are a combination of plant-based. Pharmaceutical companies are now chasing this technology, but they're finding it's harder than they thought to make something synthetic than what's natural, because the body likes natural. But when you can turn on certain pathways in the body, your own body can start flipping those switches to regulate itself. And so there's a lot of talk of how do you decrease inflammation in the body? How can we upregulate those switches to control our mitochondrial health, to upregulate all sorts of natural processes, which ultimately give us life, give our body and every cell energy to do its job. So if you're not supporting yourself at that cellular level, then no wonder why you might feel a little sluggish or tired, or just maybe not on your A game, right? You're not like your best. But it's different, and people just kind of are like, when they hear big words like biohacking or nutrigenomics, or they're like, that scares me. It's too sciencey for me. But what I want you guys to understand is our bodies are really simple. Yes, some of the medical terms can sound, overwhelming or complicated, but it's simple. And that if you can learn to support it and support the natural processes of our bodies to the best of our ability, it's your best chance at keeping out of that teeter-totter, tipping from dis-ease into disease, because truly it's pretty amazing how things can heal and repair inside of each and every one of us. And it's a really new field. It's a very new field of studying. Maybe some of your listeners have heard of a gentleman named Dave Asprey. He coined actually the term now biohacking, because he really said, why do I feel sick and why am I not optimizing my body? I should. I'm not that old, but I'm overweight. I feel sluggish. I'm feel like this. So he went on a quest to try all sorts of things, anything from different herbs and supplements and sleep and devices and meditations, and to the extreme, to be honest, was anything basic to the extreme of what can help benefit the body. And so all I would ask you guys out there is, in your day, just make sure you're asking yourself the question now and then is this healthy for my body? It could be your relationship or how you're speaking to somebody. It could be the food you're putting in your mouth. It could be how you're sleeping. But is this healthy and promoting positivity in my life? Because even like you said earlier, that negativity can actually lead to damage at a cellular level in our body.
Yeah. Yeah, our bodies are listening. Yes. Mm-hmm. Fascinating, Kelly. This is, I love the new studies. I remember when I first got sick, they didn't think that the brain could repair itself. This whole biogenesis and this neuroplasticity is fairly new, and it's exciting, because that just means, for example, in my case, my lesions are gone. What happened? Well, that meant that the brain repaired itself. Well, that is possible. And so I think it's important that we understand that our bodies repair itself, but we need to make the space for it, right? Make the environment for it to happen. So you're talking about supplementation, and what in general, because I know everybody varies and everybody's different, but in general, when you're talking about supplements, what are you talking about? What kinds of supplements are you suggesting that would help?
Yeah. And so first and foremost, my first is going from the thought process of supplementation, meaning something's missing, so I'm going to give it magnesium, I'm going to give it calcium, I'm going to give it vitamin C. 2, can I activate my body to do its own work? And so that's what I would suggest for everybody is the natural processes. There's a handful of them out there, but let me just talk about one of the biggest pathways that actually Washington State University has said this really is the biggest breakthrough in the history of preventative health. And it's what's called Nrf2 activation. So the letters Nrf2, you'll hear some people call it Nrf2 activation, but it's really those specific letters, Nrf2 activation. And that's a pathway in the body that for all of us when we're young is working well. And that pathway supports our own body's natural anti-inflammatory responses, our own body's natural detoxification, our own body's ability to make its own antioxidants, things like glutathione, catalase, SOD. But as we age and what we're exposed to in our environment, that process slows down. Or even some younger children, maybe their process isn't happening optimally because they were exposed to something early on. Their system just isn't working like revved up quite enough. And so imagine if you can just rev your system back up, maybe if you're 50, maybe that thermostat has been turned down to only working at, say, I don't know, 70%, 80%, maybe for some of us 50%. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's only 10% decreased. But if you can rev that back up, imagine instead of having to take an antioxidant like a vitamin C, your body can make it itself. Instead of taking an anti-inflammatory,
right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's what's so special, that this body is truly an incredible
It has
everything it needs. It really has everything it needs. So again, instead of taking antioxidant, your own body can make it. Produce it. Yes. Instead of taking maybe an over-the-counter anti-inflammatory, your own body can boost your own natural mechanism for that. Instead of taking something to help detoxify, we have detoxification pathways. We can help upregulate our own. So it's pretty special to think about the possibility. Then after we get our natural processes boosted, sometimes we're still deficient in certain things. And what I really would say is, I'm not even going to start to recommend things, is I would find a physician, maybe you have a DO, maybe you have a naturopath, somebody that wants to think outside of, oh, your labs are in the norm, because normative data is very skewed. You don't want to be normal. We want to be optimal, not normal.
So we're talking about functional medicine then, basically.
Talking about functional medicine, you really want to go see somebody do a deep dive in your labs to look at what small components are missing, that they can help you tweak things here or there that maybe just your normal internal medicine practitioner just doesn't pick up on because they're not quite running the labs that are that specific enough for your health. So it just gets a little bit overlooked.
Right. Yes. And I think you have to be able to understand nutrition. You have to be able to understand all those components if you're going to address it. And I'm not sure the nutrition was really something that the majority of doctors really studied, right?
No, as a matter of fact, I mean, I've talked to many, because even as a physical therapist, we don't really get much nutrition. So I've done all my independent studying and research on my own. And doctors say they are lucky if they get one class.
One class. That's what I've heard as well. Yeah.
And once you get such a specialty in what you're doing, you almost, if that's not what we practice every day, one, you don't quite remember it that clearly, but two, you can't stay on top of what's the latest and greatest in health and wellness and technology.
Yeah, and they may be a very good doctor, but that's just they've specialized in something else.
Exactly, 100%. And so I always tell people, don't just say, hey, I'm going to go ask my doctor. You want to ask the expert that's knowledgeable in that specific thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Be an avid consumer. It's kind of like if you have a plumbing problem and you go ask your neighbor and your neighbor's an attorney, they know nothing about plumbing. Why would you go ask them?
Right.
But
Exactly.
we actually do that kind of stuff all the time. We take advice from people that really don't even have the background to be giving us information.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, we do that. Oh my goodness. This has been amazing, Kellie. I am so happy to have met you, and I'm so happy to have been able to be part of this journey with you. Really,
It is. And if you guys want a deeper dive, I mean, you can go into so many things. People are talking about red light therapy. At our clinic, we have hyperbaric oxygen, infrared sauna. There's float labs. There's so many things now that they're coming out to what can be the next edge, what can give you the next edge. And I would just encourage all of you guys to get out and try some of it. Some of it you'll love and like, and others you're like, it's not for me. But it's kind of fun to start exploring how to really make your body feel even better.
Yes, the float therapy is amazing. I'm waiting for this coronavirus to go away so that we can begin with that again. That was something new for me because I love trying new things. I think you know that about me.
Yes.
And so, oh my gosh, that's an amazing, these alternative therapies are worth looking into, whether it's a sauna, the float, whatever it may be, worth investigating because that's where we help ourselves, right? That's where we kind of, we have to be our own advocates, like you say. And I think it's important for our well-being as well as the well-being of our families. Give us your information, Kellie. I will, when I post this video, I will be posting your information, but can you tell us, give us your information. How do we find you?
Yes, you guys, happy to connect in any way I can. So a couple different ways. You can go to our website. Our website is, I have two different ones. It's either you can go to thelupshas.com or our actual physical therapy clinic is ocneurorehab.com. So thelupshas.com or ocneurorehab.com. You can find us on social media, both there as well, the Lupshas or OC Neuro Rehab on Facebook, on Instagram. And you can even find us on YouTube at the Lupshas as well. I have a bunch of stuff on my personal profile too, so you can find me lots of different places, but best to reach out, probably the easiest would be either through our Facebook group of the Lupshas or our website in and of itself. And last, I'll just end, Margie, kind of something so exciting. If you guys got any value from this, or you want further information, or you want to, follow, we have just started a podcast.
Oh, so that's right. I want to hear about this. That's right.
It's called Becoming Your Own CEO. Becoming the CEO of Your Own Health. Okay, Becoming the CEO of Your Own Health. You can find it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your own podcast. But we're really excited to bring this information to you of what is out there in this whole field of health and how can we take control of it. And that's exactly what you and I were just talking about. So you'll hear from my husband and I. You'll also have special guests that are going to be coming on just to really bring you, maybe just that one thing that you're looking for to up-level your health.
I am so excited about this podcast. I can't believe I forgot to ask you about it because I just heard about it and I thought I needed to ask you. Yes. So, okay. So we can find you, and you spell Lupsha, L-U-P as in Paul, S as in Sam, H-A-S as in Sam, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
Good. I just want to make sure that they can find you, Kellie, because I think it's important. I think it's important for us to have a resource like you in our lives. And I thank you. I thank you so much for being with me. It's a real pleasure having you. And I try to share with the people that come onto my Facebook page or my website as much as I can where I think it might help. And so that's why I thought it would be good to share you. And I appreciate you for being part of us and part of our community.
Thank you. Well, I'm sending all of you guys love and blessings, and it was absolutely a privilege to be on and share with each and every one of you.
Thank you. All righty. I hope you have a nice day. I hope everybody has a nice day today. Namaste. And we'll be talking soon. I will be posting this, and love you. Love to everyone.
Bye, everyone.